All right, good evening. It's Sunday, the 24th of August. So, outlook for the week. So, it feels a bit stupid to be starting with Bitcoin, to be honest, because obviously it is not leading the market anymore in terms of volume or price action or anything that's important to us. So, this week, well, over the past 6 weeks or so, we've printed 5 weeks overlapping value, and this week we are breaking down from that value. So, having traded into a previous weekly low this week ahead of Jackson Hole, we had the impulse up, more or less came and tested this POC, this high volume node, but unable to accept within this old value at the moment. So at face value, this is weakness, and we should expect rotation towards previous value, which is at 109. So we obviously bracketed up here for a period of time before the breakout, and we were unable to break higher from this area of balance. So my sort of baseline assumption is that we just bracket between 109 and 115, which is kind of what I thought last week. I don't think there's any reason to expect anything different at the moment. So unless we can get above levels I'll come to in a moment, I just think we're probably going to chop it up in this area. Below 109 is bad. Then we can look towards this POC and potentially 104. And above 115, if we can find that acceptance, is good. Right? Looks like we're printing a weekly POC here as well. So that's kind of the level we really need to break, and then the 30-day rolling VWAP as well. Looking at it just purely from a PA perspective, so there's a 30-day rolling, sort of attempting to come back into value here, but not succeeding. So, the best case I could see is that we probably come down and fill out the imbalance, then maybe have another attempt. But overall, if I look at the weekly, the daily profiles, feels like we're potentially starting to form a range here. So just balancing, 115, 116, 113 is the low. So, at the moment, I think our likely destination is this naked point of control, 113. And then we'll see if we get downside continuation towards 109. But this is largely just down to the ETH rotation, isn't it? So we're just seeing dominance get absolutely wrecked as larger players rotate out of BTC and into ETH. And we're seeing that on Hyperliquid in particular, which is interesting. So I think it's not particularly consequential while we're trading in this area, likely just to go sideways and not really have too much of an impact on, say, ETH and Sol. But if we do lose 109, then potentially we are in a bit of trouble. So, this is the composite level that we just looked at. This is the daily imbalance. I'll just take this off. 109 really needs to hold. If we accept under, then could be a little bit of trouble for the rest of the market, and we're likely to trade into at least 104. And in that scenario, just coming into a period of weakness overall, if we do get below that 90-day VWAP, when was the last time we did it? It was here before we broke down. I just can't rule out that possibility again. And, if we look at this wider profile, it would kind of imply a range like this, and we could see us trade potentially back into the 365 day. So I don't think this weakness is to be, just dismissed. It is genuine weakness, I think. But I don't want to get super bearish unless we lose 109. It's more, I think the most likely baseline scenario right now is that we just trade sideways in this area and fill out this low volume node, kind of as we did here, or even here, right? So, long-term range, breakout, bit of trading within those two areas of balance. So are we just going to fill out this area, or are we going to actually break down? The only way I'd get bullish on BTC now, as I say, is if we can accept above 115 and then break the 30-day VWAP, which is going to soon be lining up with the previous month's VWAP. And I think that's it for Bitcoin. It's just sideways. So I think we can just largely disregard it. It's more of a distraction than anything at the moment, unless we break 109, in which case I think, that is potentially a sign to risk off for a bit. Okay, let's go to ETH. So just breaking new all-time highs as we speak. So obviously we had the retest of 30-day rolling. I took the long here on Thursday. It's not much size. I wanted it to come a bit deeper. All we've done this weekend is tag previous week's value high. We're now getting upside continuation. So, how far is this going to go? It's kind of pointless to speculate because the market is very fragmented. Using metrics like open interest and book depth aren't really going to give you too much advantage here, I don't think. It's more a case of seeing what the price action is like and where value gets established higher up, if it does. So, this is a multi-year breakout. right? Really since the previous all-time highs, all we've done is range in this area. Didn't mean to draw it like that, but in any case, at the very least, we've ranged here since March 24, and this is a multi-year breakout, so I don't think you want to be fading it. And it's very difficult to speculate as to where it might go. Could you draw fibs from this leg, for example? Maybe 414 is at 5,200, and then you're looking at the 618 of 58. But it's just drawing fibs feels a bit nonsensical. Although TradFi does tend to respect them, so we'll just have to see. It just makes sense to be riding this trend for now. So yeah, previous week value high tag was the opportunity to get in this weekend. I was thinking perhaps we come a bit lower, maybe test previous week VWAP, but yeah, it just looks too strong, doesn't it? Let's just take a look at it quickly from a profile perspective. I don't think it's going to tell us a great deal. It's just trending up, isn't it? So there's not much to say or do in terms of ETH right now. So weeklies, this is the dailies. So previous day value high didn't even come and tag the previous day's val today. A couple of overlapping value highs here. So 47.60 was quite a clean level. But yeah, it's just trending market. So we're into price discovery. So, there's really no point referring back to all of this stuff anymore, right? We just need to see what sets up above 5K, essentially. This was a composite we formed in the week, which overlapped with this one. So, this return into that low was the long. If you didn't take it here, which was quite a pretty aggressive entry, but saw some people did on the timeline. Fair play to them. So yeah, I don't think there's much else to say on ETH BTC. So let's look at Sol. Well, let's look at ETH BTC. Sorry, I didn't look at ETH BTC yet. Binance, I think. Yeah. So trading above previous year's val, which we talked about earlier in the week, has been a significant level. Next level would be previous year's VWAP. And I think potentially we are likely to find some resistance there. That might be where we get maybe a small rotation back to BTC, but it's really speculation, isn't it? Any ETH BTC pullbacks into that level are probably a bid, but this is a pretty clean breakout now, so not necessarily going to get a retest there. And auction market theory, if this is our value area, re-entering that previous area, we're expecting traversal of value, right? So ETH BTC up to 55 would be like a 20% move on ETH from here. 30. So that's a huge move, right? Puts ETH at sort of 6,500. Could get interrupted around VWAP, which itself is a good, 10% away still. So it's 5,400 or so, 55. But those are the levels I would watch on ETH BTC. And that's all we really have to work with, because obviously the USD pair is now in price discovery. So as I say, until it starts to balance or does something, there's not really much to work with in terms of ETH USD. Sol, if I start with Sol ETH, just want to make a couple of points on this. Okay, so this is the thing, right? The trend is clearly delineated by the 30-day rolling VWAP, which we've traded below since May, with one deviation. So here again, we're rejecting, right? So I've seen people calling bottom here on Sol ETH because we come into potentially an area of demand. I think that's extremely short-sighted and kind of suggests that people haven't paid attention to the way ETH BTC behaved. So great, rolling back to ETH BTC. Right, it wasn't until we got a clean impulse through the 30-day rolling VWAP that the trend changed. Okay, so this is where the ETH BTC pair bottomed, then reclaiming the 90-day, these crossing over, obviously got trend reversal. So my point is, don't call the bottom on Sol ETH too soon. Even when you get the impulse away, that's still a decent opportunity to start rotating out of one and into the other. I do think Sol ETH will bottom. I do think it has, clearly it has TradFi narrative going for it now, which it didn't previously. So I do think we're starting to see some Sol strength, but against ETH, you don't want to be premature in that rotation. I think if you're holding Sol, no reason to sell or go into ETH now, but if we look at Sol ETH, until you get that clean breakout, and even across of the 30, 90-day VWAPs, there's no trend reversal. So no need to be early to that trade, I don't think. That's the point I would make. And ETH right now just seems to be sucking liquidity out of everything else. So yeah, we're seeing some bounces here and there. Hype doing something today. Just tacking into that gap. So it looks, Hype looks pretty good, but against ETH, probably less so. Not really an easy thing to trade on margin at the moment. There was this trade that took yesterday, a previous month VWAP, which we've again held today on this retest. So there was a long here yesterday, but it was a bit of a slow grind. Just now starting to see a bit of momentum come back into the market. If we can reclaim here, so if we get a decent impulse into this 4-day bracket, then there's potentially this return pullback. Trade it back up. So I'd want to see a rejection, say, of previous month value high, and then a retest of this LVN. And then we can trade it up to that 48.60 level, and then potentially if that breaks, then we're looking at new all-time highs, and finally that expensive leg towards that sort of $55 region, which I had marked out some time ago. That's how I'd be looking to play Hype from here. So maybe a decent trade. I need to move this level up and just stick an alert on it. And just wait now. Just wait for a dip. Inner, I've taken a long, had this plan marked out since Friday. So just dipping back into this gap, testing these previous highs, and now reclaiming value. So I'm just looking for like a 5% move here, just up to this value high kind of area, testing this area of supply. Not looking for sort of big move or continuation at the moment, but still nice little trade. Pengu finding support again at demand. Bit messy and tough. Yeah, probably the thing to do is just hold from Friday's entry, but yeah, looks okay. I just think alts generally are just gonna struggle against ETH for the foreseeable future, right? Until it sort of slows down and consolidates, I think you're just going to see continued rotation into ETH and ETH dominance just destroying. Others is actually rallying now. Well, that's encouraging for alts, isn't it? This is what you want to see. I mean, the others' dominance looks like we are entering a good uptrend now. So 30-day crossing the 90. So yeah, looks like we're going to have a good time in terms of alts. And typically that's what happens when we get a breakout on the Dow, which happened on Jackson Hole on Friday as well. So if we look back to these previous instances of Dow breakouts, one was in Q4 2023. We know how alts performed then. That was probably the best performance we've seen from alts this cycle. Are we going to have a similar repeat of that now? And the other one was back in 2020. And this was the start of, alts just outperformed this entire time. This is where we saw BTC dominance just nuke for it's November 20 to December 21. Okay, so a month later. Okay, well, a couple of months after that breakout, at least, that's when we started to see dominance break down. and alts had a really good time for a year, pretty much. So yeah, things are looking pretty good overall. Pump. Okay, decent retest here then. So failed break, bearish retest, bullish retest. So was a decent long, just flushing out some, obviously. I just think this the trouble with this coin is it's just attracting so many highly leveraged participants that it's going to keep giving these pullbacks. So kind of good to trade, but you just need to be in and out of it, I think. So for me, the next trade would be here up to at least that 34, and then potentially looking for higher. Right, getting back above here would probably take us back up to here, and then 46 would probably be significant resistance, being that midpoint of the leg down.